Ragtime music enjoys a high degree of respect and admiration today, but a century ago, some Cincinnatians blamed ragtime music for many of this community's ills. Then came a woman who stood that notion on its ear. Who she was and how she did it are Cincinnati Curiosities. Cincinnati first discovered ragtime music through outraged exposés of a few disreputable saloons in the West End. It is clear from newspaper reports that illicit gambling and outrageous behavior went hand in hand with pounding pianos pumping ragtime music. According to the local editors, ragtime music was nothing less than, quote, public exhibitions of depravity. The president of Cincinnati's chapter of the American Federation of Musicians had enough and announced that ragtime had to go. He ordered his members, whenever possible, to substitute music of real merit instead of, quote, this ragtime trash. The tide began to turn in 1897 when Matilda Sissieretta Joyner Jones, billed as the Black Patty, arrived in Cincinnati for a concert at Hoyt's Opera House, bedecked in medals awarded by royalty on her European tour. This was not Sissieretta Jones' first visit to Cincinnati. She debuted at Cincinnati's Music Hall in 1893 with a sedate yet impressive recital of classical songs that thrilled the standing room only crowd. In line with her namesake, the Italian opera singer Adelina Patti, Sissieretta Jones performed a variety of operatic selections from Carmen, Rigoletto, and The Daughter of the Regiment. She left the integrated audience overcome with delight. The 1897 program signaled a substantial departure from Sissieretta Jones' earlier repertoire. This time around, ragtime music was on the bill. Jones now led a substantial troupe of 50 singers and players who offered broader fare, including comedy skits, popular songs, and selections of ragtime numbers. Ragtime was a major draw for the review. The performance by the Black Patty Troubadours at Hoyt's Over the Rhine Concert Hall was the first respectable ragtime performance in Cincinnati. The traditionalists huffed and puffed, but as one local newspaper editorialized, quote, ragtime is here to stay. It's the people's music. It's the children's delight. The musicians who play what the people want are wise, and the self-summoned martyrs who would take away a pleasure that is wholly innocent will have themselves to thank when jobs are few. Soon after Black Patty wowed the crowds at Hoyt's, Cincinnati newspapers began to carry advertisements promoting records of ragtime tunes as well as ragtime sheet music. The people's music prevailed, all because of a soulful, sweet-voiced soprano named Sissieretta Jones. Okay, let's welcome back the man who curates these curiosities, our good buddy Greg Hand. Greg, glad to have you here.
Good morning.
All right, so did people really object to ragtime music that much?
It is amazing. This is a kind of music that today is performed by symphony orchestras. They have special pop concerts just for ragtime music. There was a major movie called Ragtime. But if you look in the newspapers at the time, you would have thought that the end of the world was coming. The vituperation poured on this innocent form of music is absolutely astounding, looking back from 100 years in the future.
Well, in that case, what sort of music did they prefer instead?
This was the golden age of Tin Pan Alley. And so this was a bunch of songwriters in New York. At the time, the way that music was sold by sheet music. And so you would walk into a music store or a department store, there'd be somebody there with a piano, and they would be playing the latest sheet music so that you would buy this and take it home. And the popular songs at the time from Tin Pan Alley would have been things like In the Good Old Summertime and Only a Bird in a Gilded Cage, and By the Light of the Silvery Moon, and all these sorts of poetic things. The sidewalks of New York. This was also the period in which Take Me Out to the Ball Game was first introduced. That's what they preferred instead of this awful ragtime music.
Did Sissieretta Jones have this effect in other cities?
She did, apparently. The interesting thing is when you look at her biography, it appears that these appearances in Cincinnati really had an effect here. You see little bits of evidence in other cities, but Cincinnati was a very large city. It was very popular on the touring theatrical circuit, and there were enough people here and enough people interested in music that she was extremely influential in the Queen City.
Greg, this has been absolutely fascinating as always. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Always a pleasure.